Ginsburg, you know, I got home last night from our Atlantic 10 meetings, and I told my daughters that I was speaking at Convocation, and to say that they were incredulous would do them a disservice. Like, Dad, why on earth are you speaking at a graduation? How did that come about? And so I thought maybe I'd tell you how it came about. You see, Dean Ginsburg, early in the year, thought that he'd try to find the most accomplished academician that he could find to address this great audience. And he put in a call, and he was rejected. So then Dean Ginsburg thought, I'm going to find somebody who's the most accomplished professionally in his or her field, and try to see if they could address the audience. And he put in a call, and he was rejected. And so then Dean Ginsburg said, let me find the best speaker I can have. It doesn't really matter his or her accomplishments. I just want a great speaker here. And I figured I couldn't turn him down 3 times, so I decided to accept that. In all seriousness, I will say that speaking here with the graduates behind me does bring back a memory of one of my least successful experiences as a coach. One of the great things in college athletics, we have an opportunity to travel with our teams, to conduct clinics, to speak at various events. It's a really great opportunity for myself and my family. When I was a head coach at Lemoyne College in Syracuse, I had the opportunity to go and give a series of clinics in Portugal. And I had just recently converted to Catholicism. I'd grown up Methodist, and when I met my wife, that was it. I became a Catholic. That's pretty much how things go at our house. And so I was new to the Catholic faith, and I was over in Portugal. I'm like, I have to go to Mass while I'm overseas. And I was there with 2 other Division I head basketball coaches, both about 6'6", 6'7", and I woke them up and said, guys, we got to go to church. Said, no, we have to go to church. And I found out where there was a church service right around the corner from the hotel. And the whole time we've been in Portugal, everywhere we'd gone to do clinics, people spoke in English. We had no problem communicating, and I just assumed it'd be that way. Well, we get to the church, and I go to the guys, you ever been to Catholic Mass before? They said, no. I'm like, well, it's no problem. You just do what the guy behind you does, okay? Or you do what the guy in front of you does. We walk in, and the place is packed. The second row is empty. There's one guy sitting alone in the first row. Every other pew is filled. So we go trudging up. Everyone's looking at us. We're in the second row. Mass starts, and it's in Portuguese. And I look at the guy on the left. He doesn't understand what they're saying. I look at the guy on the right. I'm like, just do what the guy in front of us does. So the Mass begins, and he stands up, and we kind of turn around like I'm doing here. Everyone else is standing up, and we stand up. He kneels. We turn around, everyone else is kneeling, we kneel. Halfway through, we get kind of cocky. He stands, we stand, he kneels, we kneel. 3/4 of the way through, he stands up, turns around, and waves. We stand up, turn around, and wave. And everyone's sitting and laughing at us. So the Mass ends, and the crowd parts like the Red Sea, and my 2 buddies, or who I thought were my buddies, and we left the church, and the priest greets us at the end, and now he speaks, of course, in English. He says, you know, man, I'm so appreciative of what you're doing in our community, giving these clinics for the youth, and I do want to apologize for our congregation. But you see, I'd announced that there had been a birth in the church, and with the proud father, please stand up. So, please. Now, somebody also told me if you're speaking at a graduation, the key is to give them a couple points and get off the stage. So I'm going to try to do that as well as I can. But the one thing I'd like to talk a little bit about, hopefully some of the experiences I've had in coaching, some of the experiences I've had since I was a graduate, just a couple of years ago, like you folks. And what I found to be the most important things. And at the end of the day, my job is to try to create a team where each individual can flourish but never at the expense of the team. And whatever you do when you leave George Mason, you're going to be a part of a team. In your family, in your community, at your work. And I think the way of blending team and individuality is something that has really become a lost art. I know that for me to get our players to sacrifice for the greater good of the team continues to be the single biggest challenge I face. And how do you help each individual reach his or her goals while being part of a team where you sacrifice for the greater good? And when I talk with our team and when I see the people I know have been successful, who've lived happy, productive lives after graduation, the first thing I think about is passion. And passion was used a couple times talking about some of the award winners here. And the thing I know is every single person who's successful, and what your definition of success is peculiar to you, but everyone I know who's successful has a great passion for what he or she does, has a great passion for living. One of my favorite quotes is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. And I would just encourage all you graduates to never lose your passion, to have enthusiasm for everything you do. And I think one of the things that is a lost art in our society today is the sense of passion, is the sense of enthusiasm, is the sense, quite frankly, of optimism. I read something just in the New York Times last night about a political campaign, and everyone, whether on the right or the left or anywhere in between, kind of the gloom and doom facing our American society. Certainly we have lots of problems to fix. But I think a level of passion, a level of optimism, a level of love for what you do carries the day. And I would just encourage you every single day, we make a choice to get up and be enthusiastic and passionate, or we get up and make a choice to be negative or pessimistic. And I would just encourage all of you to redouble your efforts, to find your passion and to find the joy in everything you do. The word passion, there's a component of love in the word passion. And so it's a love for what you do. And I've been very blessed. I don't feel like I go to work any day. I love what I do every single day. I love the craft of coaching. But beyond that, I love the young men that I'm fortunate enough to coach and teach. And so the passion can't only be about what you're doing. It has to be about who you're doing it with and a commitment to other individual people. So that would be the first thing I would say is make sure you have passion, that it flows, that's evident in everything you do. The second thing that I would encourage you, and our guys on my team get sick of hearing this, is a phrase called burn your boats. And as the story goes, in 711, King Tariq of North Africa was asked to liberate Spain from their oppressive ruler. And so King Tariq and his men of 6,000 land on the shores of Gibraltar, where they're met by 60,000 Spaniards. They're outnumbered 10-1. And as soon as every man got out of the boat, his first order to his men was, burn your boats. They looked at him, is he crazy? Burn your boats. And so the concept was, you can't have one foot in land, one foot in the water. You have to be all in. And it was one of the most miraculous victories in military history. 6,000 men defeating 60,000 Spaniards. For me, as a coach of my team, I encourage them to burn their boats every day. Because it's really easy to be enthusiastic about the team on the first day of practice. It's a little bit harder to be enthusiastic and bought in late in February. Maybe we've lost a couple games, we're getting back from a late road trip. It's really enthusiastic to be on board if you're starting and you're playing all the time, or you're the leading scorer. It's a little harder when you're asked to play a role, or you don't have the immediate success that you want or need. And I would say that in society, all the people I've met, it's that way across the board. It's so easy to be bought in when everything's going well. But what happens when you get a new boss or a new directive or things get tough? I think then it's really easy, and I think it's the norm in our society, to have one foot on land and one foot in the sea. And the only thing I would encourage you is, whatever you decide to do, burn your boats and go all in. Nothing gets accomplished when you kind of dip your toe in the water. You have to go all in. If at any point you get to a point in a situation where you don't feel you can burn your boats, then that should tell you it's time to look for another situation to pursue your passion where you can support the organization and you burn your boats every single day. The third thing that we try to talk to our team, that I think is so important to all your graduates, is to be process-oriented. And we always talk to our guys about embracing the process. And as we're kind of trying to revamp our locker room, on two sides of our locker room, on one side we're going to have a big picture with the Burn Your Boats slogan. And on the second side of the locker room, a quote from Vince Lombardi. I know this is Washington Redskins territory, and I am going to hit the graduate up who works for corporate marketing for the Redskins for some tickets down the road. I put a star in my program. When I grew up in Wisconsin, that's Green Bay Packer country. And Vince Lombardi was, in my opinion, the greatest football coach of all time. But one of his quotes that I stress to our guys that will be up in our locker room is, perfection is not attainable. But if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. And I really like that because there's for a couple reasons. One, that we have to be process-oriented. We cannot get fixated on results all the time. There's so much in what I do that you can play a great game against a better opponent and really put out a great effort, and maybe you don't win, quote-unquote, on that particular day. We also know, anyone who's played sports, you can play against an inferior opponent, not put out your best effort, have won on the scoreboard, but really didn't produce excellence. And so, to me, the most important thing is to embrace the process, strive for perfection every day, but focus on excellence. If we do our best, if you do your best every single day, if our players do their best every single day in practice and embrace that process, then the success will come. The biggest problem that I see coaching, and the biggest problem that I've seen in my adult life with friends and family members and other acquaintances, is people that will allow external factors to determine their view of success. If you allow external factors to determine your view of success, you're never going to be content. You're never going to be satisfied. There's always somebody with a better team, a better player, a higher paying job, a bigger house, nicer clothes, whatever it is. And I see so many people who get derailed because they're always comparing themselves to somebody else or allow somebody else's definition of success to define them. The worst thing I can do as a coach is worry how we're going to beat that team. Well, this team has more players. This team has more resources. This team, if we take care of what we want to do, then we'll be able to be successful. And I think because of that, another factor that I would just stress is the ability to develop your failure quotient, your FQ. Your FQ is as important as your IQ. How you handle failure, how you handle adversity, what does a setback do to you? I heard a great quote at this conference just the other day. Criticism can either make you better or it can make you bitter. And I think you have to try to make a choice to let criticism and failure instruct you to improve every step of the way. One thing along that I would just stress, because I do think it's kind of a lost art for younger people, I guess I'm showing my age, is when you're process-oriented, you have to be willing to pay your dues and sometimes wait your turn before you get the results that you want. And I think it's great to aspire to success and personal happiness and personal fulfillment, but I think there's a process that goes on, and I think the struggle makes you a better person. The struggle makes you more complete. I think failures help instruct your vision as time goes on. So I just really encourage you to be process-oriented. The last two things that I would just encourage you is to be relationship-driven and service-oriented. The people that I know that have really struggled after graduation are the people that have allowed relationships to really derail their life. And most people I know my age, their regrets are not so much on their career successes or lack thereof, but they're about the meaning that has ruled their life, the relationships, and the strength or the weaknesses of the relationships. And I think it's really interesting. We're a more connected society today than we've ever been. It's so easy to text, to tweet, to Vine, to Snapchat, to whatever else it is that my daughters do that I don't really understand. But we're also the least connected we've ever been as a society. And I think we've lost the art of face-to-face communication. I think we've lost the art of seeking first to understand before we then understand other people. They understand us. And it was interesting, a Harvard Business Review study focused on communication patterns at really successful companies and less successful companies. And they found that the more successful companies had the most amount of face-to-face interactions and communications among colleagues and coworkers. And the least successful organizations relied on emails, documents, texts, and impersonal forms of communication. And so I would just really encourage you, as you continue on with your life and you get busy, to never lose sight of face-to-face, personal communication, deep connections with other people. And I think when you get to know other people and you form a common bond, then it allows you to work together as a team. That's the most important thing that we try to do with our team, is get them to work together, to put their separate agendas at the door and all work together. And I think the more that they learn to talk directly to each other, to constructively confront people, the better off it's going to be. And the last thing I would just say is to not forget that at the end of the day, all the opportunities that you had, all the opportunities we had, were because of people who sacrificed, people who mentored us, people who gave us opportunities to go to grade school, to get an internship, to rise in the profession. And I think a lot of people at the end of their life, get dissatisfied because what was the purpose? What was the goal of all that I did? And so whatever it is that you do, I just really would encourage you to give back however you deem appropriate. Serve as a mentor, serve as a volunteer, stay connected with George Mason, and help the next generation of students and citizens go on to aspire. Now, the guys on my team would tell you that that is the shortest pregame talk I've ever given, so I think it's time to go. Congratulations, graduates.